Well, hello. I'm here with Doug to talk about patent trolls and other things. It is Friday, October 4th, 2024. And but first, let me mention this one, which I think was pretty fun. The Register has an article. These guys got caught for uh, returning fake iPhones. This seems like a really bad idea to me. They would buy Chinese knockoff iPhones and then return them to the Apple store to get real iPhones. And I wonder, and this seems like you would get caught, right? I mean, who are you going to fool with this?
Yeah.
And of course, they got caught. A Chinese citizen living in Baltimore, Maryland, got 57 months in prison, 3 years of supervised release, $1 million in restitution. And the other scammer, a Chinese citizen living in Germantown, Maryland, got similar 54 months in prison, has to pay $400,000 back, and so on. They did this in 2017 through 2019. Returned shipments of fake iPhones. So I guess it seemed like it reminds me of there was another story years ago about two kids that just went to like a gas station. They found the ATM machine had like the default PIN, so they could go into the settings and just make it hand out money. And then they just went back every week for like week after week until the cops were just standing there waiting for them. I
So
thought,
wait, so Sam, they would get the fake iPhones from
yeah,
China.
yeah. Then they would return them as defective.
But they would send them to the United States. They had
Yeah,
somebody send them.
yeah, I guess they returned them under a in the Washington, D.C. area. They received them
Yeah.
in mailboxes. They then returned them with spoofed serial numbers and IMEI numbers to Apple retail stores, authorized service providers, or via the mail to get real phones in return. And, this is amazing. You hand them, they've got the evidence, they've got an address. You just keep doing it. It's like, I think I've heard of a TV show. I've never seen it, like The Stupidest Criminals. This reminds me of that.
Well, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
but Cisco went through this
oh,
with
oh,
Cisco routers.
there's
Yeah.
tons of fake Cisco routers, but I don't think they were returning them to Cisco for replacement. They were just,
Yeah, they were. They
oh,
were.
okay.
That's how Cisco found out about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would think that would be the stupidest thing. I mean, you sell them to a customer, and then
Yeah,
they,
yeah, yeah. They were sold to a customer.
right?
Yeah,
These
yeah,
guys are
yeah.
just telling directly.
Yeah. They were Sam, they were cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, this is like the money mule jobs. I remember used to have these signs all over campus: "Work from home, earn $300 a day," and you're
Yeah,
a money mule. You're just like waiting to get arrested. Anyway,
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
uh,
Along the same lines, I received a letter. This is in the mail for a business license, and it's business license renewal. And you look at the form, and it sure looks like a government form, piece of paper.
mm,
Nothing. Anyway, piece of paper. It's time for business renewal, and we're looking at it, and it's like, wait a minute. It's gone up $100 from last year. Then you look at the very, very bottom in fine print, and it says Compliance Filings Incorporated. Now, that's not the government. Then you take a look here on the return on the envelope, and it says this is not a government document. So what you have is somebody that has the business names and they're doing mass mailings and they're skimming $100 by doing the filing for you.
I guess if
That's clever.
I guess if they actually do the filing, then they can claim it's a service fee.
Right.
And this deceptive stuff reminds me of the dark patterns that the political campaigns did. The Democrats did it some, but the Trump campaigns did it much more. Where you'd go on the website, they'd say contribute $25, and if you don't notice, you're actually contributing $25 a month. It's like in the fine print, the button is already clicked
Yeah.
to make it monthly, and that's a similar kind of thing. They trick you into doing something much more expensive than you expected.
Yeah. 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 The other one, I've not heard this phone call, but there's who was it? The Susan B. Coleman Cancer Fund or Breast Cancer of America, the legitimate organization. I would get robocalls like crazy asking for donations. And I finally emailed them and they said, it's not us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm sure with the hurricane, we're going to see the scammers come out of the woodwork for relief funds, all that.
Well,
I'm sure they're already doing it.
oh, I'm sure. And this,
Yeah,
I mean, it goes right to one of my stories here. Elon Musk is now claiming victory because he posted a fake video of Kamala Harris on Twitter, which he does a lot of these. Um,
yeah,
and so there was a California law to prohibit this. And this is a parody that started with a parody video creator known as Mr. Reagan. And he sued to block the law. And he claimed that it was unconstitutionally targeting his protected satirical content, including the fake Kamala Harris video that Elon Musk retweeted. And the judge has granted his preliminary injunction, saying this violates the First Amendment. People have the right to make parodies of political figures, and this law would have to be carefully rewritten. And this, I think, is the huge problem in this country with fighting disinformation. The First Amendment gets in the way, and it reminds me of the vice presidential debate with J.D. Vance, where he said something ridiculous, and the moderator said, "Well, we have to." Oh, he said they're not citizens in that Ohio town where they claiming they're eating the cats and dogs. And they said,
yeah.
"Oh, they're legal citizens. They're here under temporary protected status." He said, "Well, you weren't going to fact check me. You said you wouldn't fact check me." and and then he said, "Well, look, they went through this law, but that law doesn't count." And they're like, "Thanks a lot. Let's." But the point is, it does make the important point, of course, that the Trump and Vance team, if they get in, they're going to deport not only citizens, they're not non-citizens, they're going to deport legal citizens, people they just don't like. If they don't like you, you're not really a citizen, regardless of what the law says. But this is the problem. I mean, if you do let the government fact check people, then pretty soon you've got political propaganda.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, nobody else has the First Amendment. We're like an experiment in what happens with unrestricted free speech. And we do see the downside of it, but there's a
Yeah,
positive side too.
yeah, yeah. And I guess this is an age-old problem, right?
Most countries don't have this. Like one thing Trump has said he wants to put in is that you're not allowed to criticize the government or the Supreme Court, or you go to jail. And that is the way it is in a lot of countries. I know in Thailand, you cannot criticize the king or you will go to jail.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's a pop, and in Russia too. It's considered, and China, criticism of the
yeah,
government is considered a crime because it corrupts, it breaks society apart, and that's certainly the right wing would like to do that here, but right now they can't.
yeah.
Anyway, what else do you got?
All right, so here's my first story. This is kind of an interesting one. OpenAI just received another $6.6 billion in funding.
From Microsoft?
No, just well, in
I bet mostly from Microsoft. I think Microsoft.
from Microsoft.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this makes them worth, sounds pretty good, around, right? $13 billion.
Scott Galloway says they're still a buy. He said they're still undervalued. People think that's
Yeah.
going to be worth so much money. It reminds me of so many other internet bubbles. It hasn't made anything that's worth any money yet, but everybody is so sure it'll be worth money pretty soon.
Well, I would argue there are places where it is being used. And I'm not sure if you're following, there's the dock workers strike right now.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that they're fighting over is the use of AI.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, trying to stop the progress of technology is a losing battle.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like the
yeah,
actors try to do this too. We want to make it illegal to
exactly.
use AI simulations of us. And I say, well, you might not like it, but there's no turning the clock back on that.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
yeah,
being used. What I mean, though, is not making any money. I mean, even Microsoft Copilot for $20 a month is still costing more to run than they get in money. It's all just running at a loss leader right now.
yeah. Well, it's like a lot of research products, right? It might take years to
Yeah.
come up with the solution, and it
Well,
might be a complete flop.
I guess I agree with them. It's not going to be a flop. There are so many
Yeah,
applications. They now the latest thing I hear from Microsoft is you're just going to talk to your computer and have a conversation. Computer, please do this. And it'll say, well, I could do this. There's a problem. Well, you discuss back and forth with your computer to get it to do things. And, this is something Bill Gates said maybe 20 years ago. They had the Windows XP desktop looked really pretty. And they said, there, you don't need more graphics processing power or anything. He said, no, you totally do. Why isn't this a realistic three-dimensional human face with a personality that I can just talk to? I mean, it needs to be 1,000 times better. It would be great if it was like that. And I guess we're getting there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, we will. No, I believe we will.
and apparently pretty soon. I mean, the graphics have gotten great. I'm amazed when I see televisions how good they are now. And now the ability to carry on a conversation is already there. So,
Yeah. Well, we saw there was a reporter that signed up to do a therapy session and used an AI image and had multiple sessions with the therapist. And the therapist didn't know it was an AI generated.
and there are already AI therapists. I've heard of that. And they're going to be AI doctors, and
Yeah. Well, I think, aren't we using AI in medicine already?
sure,
In a
but
lim Yeah.
but supposedly with humans in the loop.
Yeah.
But yeah, as an assistant, absolutely help me read this X-ray, help me recommend things. Yeah,
Yeah. And we talked several weeks ago about AI being used in warfare. So you can sell drones.
oh yeah, self
So,
self-guided
and
drones are already in action in Ukraine.
yeah. So they're pre-programmed to identify a target,
Yeah,
not based on a geographical location, but by image recognition.
and with no human in the loop, so we've
Yeah,
already entered the age of like mindless robot killing machines out there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All right, Sam, what's your next story?
Well, this is an interesting one. There's this big cups flaw, which is allows remote takeover of some Linux servers, although not too many. It has another problem, which I didn't know about. Believe me,
Oh
Decoded
no.
has an article. You can use it for DDoS amplification, and it's incredibly powerful. You send it a single UDP packet, and a bunch of these old machines are defective, so they will send an endless chain of replies looking for that printer you just described to some third party, so you can get a 600 times amplification factor. They set it up in a laboratory and showed you can really make a fantastic DDoS out of these things, in addition to all the other problems.
So what you do is you send it from a specific address, of a fake address.
Right, you fake the from address. You send a UDP
Yeah.
packet with your target as the from address, and it will then send a whole bunch of queries to that target trying to connect to the printer you said was over there.
So this attack would be middle school level.
Well, it's like all application DDoS is like this, even DNS DDoS. It's like putting the wrong from address on your mail, or
Yeah.
oh
But
yeah,
what I'm getting at is
yeah.
the skill factor is
Well, no,
beginner.
yeah. Well, I mean, the skill factor of everything is beginner. Once there's a proof of concept, you just run the proof
True.
of
Yeah.
concept. But I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. That's yet another bad thing about this latest flaw. And they say there are machines out there running cups that haven't been updated since 2017. So that's why I can get away with really crazy stuff, which is, I think, true. I'm the same. A Unix machine, I wouldn't make it a high priority to patch it. And certainly patching the cup service that I'm probably not even using.
Yeah, but and again, the fix is to disable the daemon
Yeah. Oh,
or
they're
or
actually
update.
I think there are some updates. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disable or block it access from the internet. I mean, how many people run internet printers where you actually want random print jobs coming in from the internet? That seems like a really bad idea anyway. I mean, I saw people say, if you're going to do that, make them come through a VPN. So they're
Yeah.
actually your employees doing it. But
Yeah.
apparently there are thousands of machines set up that way, and I guess they're going to be alerted of the problem. That's one thing about amplification DDoS. I've seen so many of these like NTP. People can do it, but once you do it, people notice in a hurry. It floods their bandwidth, the network goes down, and then they'll fix or turn off the box. So you can't get away with it for long. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
have you got another one?
Yeah, this is not that big of a story, but it is kind of an interesting one. This is the war over power, meaning electricity,
Right.
between the old leader, crypto, and the newcomer on the block, AI.
Yeah.
So we talked about Microsoft working with or resurrecting one of the unused reactors at 3 Mile Island to bring that online.
Yeah.
And but now the people at crypto are saying, "Hey, that's foul. We need more. We need more electricity too."
Well, that shouldn't be happening because Ethereum switched to proof of stake more than a year ago, and it seemed to work fine. So they demonstrated you actually don't need to run proof of work. Really, nobody should be doing it except Bitcoin, which is stubborn.
Yeah, the Bitcoin miners.
Okay, well, the other coins and the newer coins have proven you don't need to do this. And I've never heard of Bitcoin miners yet admitting they could knock off proof of work, but I don't think it'll be very many years before they do. I mean, it's Ethereum has been the test showing just something bad happen when you move off a proof of work, and apparently not.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I remember reading, and I might be incorrect on this, but does 20% of the world's power that's being produced go towards crypto mining
I'm not sure. I've heard people say it's equal to like Portugal or something. I
or
don't.
Argentina?
I
Yeah,
don't think it's that big, but I think I know the power, they said the total power demand, I think, of the US grid will have to, power supply will have to double just for the electric cars. So I think with us going to electric cars and AI, we just need a whole lot more power
yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah.
And we clearly need to use renewable power, which is happening. And there's an amazing story a couple months ago. Caitlin found that like California has run 100% of renewable power for like 29 of the last 30 days recently. So, and Texas is largely renewable now with all the solar and wind farms. So that's a cheerful thought. If we're going to have much more power, let's make it renewable.
Yeah, well, and there's the big rush for fusion,
Well,
right?
that would be great, but it's always been 10 years off for the last 20 years. It never
Yeah,
seems to really get ready. A fusion would be great, but I
yeah,
think there's no
yeah,
hope of that in the next decade or two.
yeah. I don't think it'll be in our lifetime.
I don't know. People living longer, but yeah, it could be. But anyway, I think nuclear is totally coming back though, which is apparently a good idea. It does have a waste problem, but apparently the carbon problem is worse, so it was the better choice.
Yeah, and the story I heard years ago is with all the weapons that we created, meaning the United States and Russia, we have over a 500-year supply of fuel.
I would rather see it used for power than weapons.
There
Absolutely.
you go.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this not too long ago that that weapons grade material is now contaminated through radioactive decay
Yeah.
and it needs to be maintained. So you're kind of in this area where it can't be used as a weapon unless it gets reprocessed. But what do you do with it? It's far too rich or too hot to be used for power.
You beat your swords into plowshares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you got for us
Well, I
next?
got the one I thought was actually the most important. So there's patent trolls are companies that have a very specious argument that they own something all important. Like there's a guy that claims he invented like TCP or something. Another guy. And so anyway, uh, one of these is
Yeah.
Sable Networks. Um, Sable Networks claims to have a patent on, I think, all the one guy claims he owns email. These guys claim something else all important they own. Anyway, they've sued a whole bunch of companies, um, Cisco, Fortinet, Checkpoint, Sonic Wall, and Juniper Networks, and all of them settled out of court, paying these guys money because it seemed like it would be cheaper than paying lawyers. But Splunk fought back and managed to convince them to dismiss their claim. And Cloudflare fought back and won, saying,
Really?
go to hell. And they actually, Sable actually had to pay Cloudflare court costs of like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they seem to have shut down as a result. So February, Cloudflare prevailed when a Texas jury found it did not infringe Sable's microflow label switching patent. So they claim to have patented flow routing or something. And they convinced the jury that they don't use the microflow technology and that the patent was invalid because of prior art. They didn't even legitimately own the patent. They had prior art. Somebody else invented it first. So not only did Sable have to pay Cloudflare $225,000, They had to grant them a royalty-free license to their entire patent portfolio and pledge not to pursue further actions of this sort. So that's really important. These patent trolls have been a huge problem for decades, and always in a certain district of Texas. And this is the first significant victory I've heard of it. So it
I
might
see.
be beginning to do something with this persistent problem in tech.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
I mean, the first one of these I remember was there was a company, I think ISC, that claimed to own the kernel of Linux and therefore the kernel of Windows, and they went after Microsoft for like decades about it, claiming that a really old version of Unix they own meant that every computer manufacturer needed to pay them royalties. And that seems to have eventually gone away, although I don't remember it actually being resolved in court. But anyway, it's good to see the
Okay.
patent trolls go down. They're a persistent problem.
Yeah, yeah, they are. They are. And essentially they're after free money
Yeah, and
through the courts.
they're just exploiting the court system. And I must say, it's like
Yeah.
Donald Trump. I mean, watch him drag everything through an endless series of appeals and changes. It seems like you can get away with anything in America if you have enough money to just pay lawyers to just keep dragging it on forever. I know this was a problem like a century ago in Britain. There were cases that had been going so long, like 50 or 100 years, that everybody involved had died and their kids had died and their grandkids were still fighting the lawsuit. And it seems like we're kind of getting that way here.
Well, years ago I worked with somebody that was an attorney for IBM, worked for IBM. Maybe I mentioned this before, but when he was hired directly at a law school, he worked for a law firm or worked directly for IBM. And on his retirement day, he said, my entire career working for IBM, or in my entire legal career, I've only worked on one case, which is a patent case for IBM that went on for 35 years.
Yeah, total
So,
madness.
yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
All right. You have one more for us?
I don't. Have you?
Nope. Nope. I'm done.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for this one. I'll have another one on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Okay.